Panther people, what up? Did the Panthers make a mistake hiring Frank Reich? You watch Panthers Post with Phil Perkins. Thanks for joining. If you're new here, make sure to like, subscribe. Want to buy a shirt, buy a mug, sticker, support the channel. It's not ESPN here. We're not making millions. Just doing this for fun. And I love seeing, and I did this with the Baker Mayfield shirts. I love seeing photos of fans like this guy rocking shirts at Bank of America Stadium. It just makes you feel awesome. Yeah, Carolina Panthers named Frank Reich as their sixth full-time, not interim, head coach of the franchise. Amy Trask, who was on the Kyle Bailey show on WFNZ, did bring up the fact that, since 2019, if you want to count interim and other coaches, I think it was 2018, the Panthers have had 5 coaches. So you have Ron Rivera, Perry Fewell, Matt Rule, Steve Wilks, and now Frank Reich. First offensive-minded head coach. I'm not going to talk about what he meant in the history. Sure, he's the first quarterback ever for the Carolina Panthers through the first touchdown, but that doesn't mean anything. That was a long time ago, okay? It doesn't make him a better coach now. But, and you've seen this on Twitter, you've seen the sentiment, you can feel conflicted here. You can feel happy for Frank Reich because genuinely he does seem like a nice guy. He seems like a great coach. Seems like a family man. I feel like compared to Matt Rule, I think he's going to fit in well with the community. Like his family lives in North Carolina. His brother's a coach here. He has been for over 20 years. His family has settled down roots here. This is the first time, according to his interview with the Carolina Panthers website, that this is the first time everyone in his family, including his kids and his grandkids, are going to be in one state. And, after he retired from the NFL as a quarterback for 10 years with the Buffalo Bills, 4 straight Super Bowls or 4 Super Bowls, losing them all, he wanted to be a pastor. Like he's a man of faith. Like I think it just works with the Bible Belt. And, and not only that, he's just a great football mind. This is according to, guys who are upset as F. The same way we have guys who are probably upset with the Carolina Panthers that Steve Wilks isn't the head coach. You got guys with the Indianapolis Colts who were pissed that Frank Reich was seen as the scapegoat. He was put in a shitty situation as well. He had a literal hands-on owner. If you want to take a look, if you follow The Athletic, you subscribe to that, you see that Jim Irsay was literally making calls telling him to start Sam Ehlinger for whatever reason. And it just came out awful for him. And then you see how Jim Irsay wants to operate. He wants to have Jeff Saturday as their head coach. He literally hasn't coached any level of football in his life, maybe Pop Warner. So that's a toxic situation. Side note, that's why I wish none of these rookie quarterbacks go to the Indianapolis Colts. It seems like just like an awful situation right now, mainly because of their owner. So you can feel happy for Frank Reich and also at the same time feel super bummed out for Steve Wilks because he did everything. And I said 1,000 times when I saw that video after David Tepper emerges after that first win under Steve Wilks as the interim head coach for the Panthers, he emerges from the crowd in the locker room and then gives him the football and says, "This is for you, brother." And everyone goes nuts. And then Steve Wilks, obviously a Charlotte guy, super emotional. I'm like, damn. And I said this in previous episodes. You check them all out. I had this feeling that he's going to do great. And, qualitative wise, like maybe not quantitative. I mean, like going to the playoffs and winning games that matter, like the Cincinnati game, the Ravens game, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers game, for sure, that we're going to see in this press conference coming up that, it's going to be, Steve Wilks reminded us what keep pounding is all about. He reminded us why we're here. He reminded us of the culture. But at the end of the day, it's a results-based business. And the way the NFL is going right now, it's all about the quarterbacks, it's all about the offense. And we just had to go in a different direction. Like I knew that was going to happen. And it was so painful. It was almost like you're out on vacation. You go to Paris. I'm watching Emily in Paris right now. Judge it if you want. But it's like you go to Paris on your lonesome, and then you get into this relationship, and it's hot and heavy, but you got to go home eventually. And, you actually get real feelings for this person. And they remind you how much fun life is. And then you got to go. You got to go home. You got to go back to your job. You got to go back to your family, whatever it is, your dog. You can't let Fido die. So it just kind of felt like it was like it was like an elongated version with Cam Newton when he came back last year. He reminded us what the Panthers used to be, how they were the talk of the town. They were fun. They were cool. They had this identity, and Steve Wilks reminded people of that. 2015, keep pounding, pound the rock, strong defense, strong coach, vocal coach, guy from the community. And it seems like David Tepper just made a business decision. And, he's a billionaire for a reason. He messed up on his first hire. He clearly is changing his ways with a 4-year contract for Frank Reich. And, it's tough. And I know there is a race issue in the NFL. And it's not just the NFL, it's just coaching in general. You need to have, it's like in any job when they say, well, it says experience needed. This is an entry-level job. Not saying the NFL is an entry-level job, but if you find yourself always looking for a job and they say, well, we're looking for experience. I'm like, well, this is my first job. This is an entry-level job. How else am I supposed to get experience if you're not going to give someone experience? And, he has an interim. He was a shortly lived coach with the Arizona Cardinals. That sparked the lawsuit. Interim head coach with the Carolina Panthers. What more experience does he have? He's never been given a full contract to prove himself as a head coach in the NFL. So you look at Frank Reich's resume. Yeah, look at his record. It's a pretty good record. He's had his bumps in the road too with the Colts, but he has a long-term relationship with the NFL as a coach. As a head coach as well. He's had at least 3 full years. Steve Wilks never gotten that. And did Frank Reich get that because of his pedigree as an NFL quarterback? Or was it because, he's a white guy and the owners are white? Like Jim Irsay's white guy at last check. The owners of the Philadelphia Eagles, white guy. He was the offensive coordinator there. Are those possible reasons why he got a head coaching job and an offensive coordinator job? Yeah, maybe. And maybe you got to start somewhere. And it takes an owner to give Steve Wilks that opportunity to get that experience, to prove himself long-term, 3 years, 4 years, and to really build something in his own vision. And I hope he gets that. I don't know where it's going to be. It's the whole system. It's the whole sport. Like, there are clearly black quarterbacks out there. Byron Leftwich, great example. Scapegoat right now with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but a coveted head coaching candidate when he was the offensive coordinator there. So, and if offense is the name of the game right now, and that's what head coaches are looking for, is it going to take a couple more generations of black quarterbacks then transitioning into coaching, wanting to get into coaching as an offensive coordinator, quarterbacks coach, running backs coach, and then elevating themselves to a head coach? And so you see it all the time with Raheem Morris. He was a defensive head coach, and then he became the head coach for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Then he drops back, then he comes back, drops back, comes back. That's just kind of, I don't know. I don't know if that's how to work. I don't run the NFL, but I know there's a problem. And it sucks because it's still emotional. And because Steve Wilks pressed on those emotions, and to let that person go, and especially it's kind of just on the writing on the wall, like he's from the area, like it seems like it just kind of a match made in heaven. But it's a business. And that's kind of the other side. You kind of have to turn your heart off. I'm in news. I've been doing this for 11 years, news, and sometimes you just turn your heart off on some horrible situations. And I don't know if Scott Fitter, Dan Morgan, and David Tepper have that switch to turn it off, but they turn it off and they look at the league right now. It's all offensive-minded head coaches, whether it's San Francisco, the Eagles, Cincinnati, Chiefs are all offensive guys. They're all offensive guys. And like Lou Amarulo, whatever his name is, the defensive coordinator for the Cincinnati Bengals, not even getting a head coaching opportunity. Like, not even getting interviews. Crazy. Shut down a healthy Josh Allen in Buffalo. 3-0 against Patrick Mahomes. Could be 4-0 by Monday. And they talk about how, and you also look at what's happening in Buffalo. Sean McDermott, defensive head coach from the Carolina Panthers, given an opportunity there. And, he's built a great roster. And he's had offensive coordinators just leave, just go. And, he just lost Brian Dable to the New York Giants. And then he has Ken Dorsey. How did that turn out? How many points did the Buffalo Bills score at home in a must-win divisional playoff game? In a tumultuous year, not just for the Bills, but for the city of Buffalo. 10 points. So if you are David Tepper, and you're looking at that right now, Carolina Panthers North, the Buffalo Bills, one of our former guys, defensive head coach, head coach of the Buffalo Bills right now, just lost his prized offensive coordinator to another team. Brought on the guy behind him, Ken Dorsey, who has Panther roots as well, had an interview with the Panthers, and obviously it's not all his fault. He's not the one throwing the passes. He's not Josh Allen. He's not Stephon Diggs. He's not Gabriel Davis. But there was some transition there. There was some hiccups, and then it blew up in the most crucial time. And who knows how big the windows are? Everyone, Carolina Panther fans should know that. The windows are like this big. Is that it for the Buffalo Bills? We don't know. But then if he leaves, who's behind him? If he were to get hired, because he's not, it's Joe Brady. So you imagine that transition there. Everyone's got an ego. They're going to want to put their little bit of, pixie dust on the offense once they're at the helm. They're the OC. If you're a head coach, do you want to go through that transition? I wouldn't. There are some who might think that, it's good to refresh it, change it up every year so you're not so predictable. Yeah, that sounds good on paper. But maybe it doesn't work. Maybe that person gets to the hot seat and they choke. And so David Tepper looks at that. He's like, whew, if I want stability, which he has seen anything but since he bought the Panthers, you put the offensive-minded head coach in place. They are there. You sign him for 4 years. They are there for 4 years unless you fire them. And then you got your defensive coordinator who, according to some trends, taking a look, they're not getting poached. They're not, unless you're D'Amico Ryans. He is the one guy who's getting poached. He's the one that's like, oh, this guy. Young, energetic, Shanahan system, at least it's in the team. He can get an offensive mind from the 49ers to bring with him to the Texans if that's where he ends up going. So that's where the stability comes from. And especially if you're introducing a rookie quarterback, you want that. You don't want, to have a rookie quarterback and he has, Steve Wilks as the head coach. Great. And then he has Pep Hamilton as the offensive coordinator. Does an amazing job, which is what you would want to see out of C.J. Stroud or Bryce Young or whoever. You would want that. Even if it was Anthony Richardson as the quarterback for the Carolina Panthers and Pep Hamilton coaches him up and the Panthers win the NFC South, what do you think is going to happen to Pep Hamilton? He is gone. He's going to be the head coach for the LA Chargers. And then who's the wings? And it's going to keep on happening because you're going to have a great quarterback like Anthony Richardson or C.J. Stroud just producing, and you're just going to constantly be losing guys. And maybe it happens with the Bills. You just choke when it comes to the moment when you probably should have had that continuity. If Brian Daboll was the offensive coordinator with the Bills, would they have schemed something up to win that game against the Bengals? Maybe. I don't know. But if you're David Tepper, you're going to take that risk? Again, after a failed hire and you're embarrassed by hiring Matt Rule? You're going to be embarrassed again? I don't think so. So let me know. How do you guys feel? I know you guys put it out there in the live video, but let me know how you feel. Frank Reich, right? Or Steve Wilks, you're wilting right now. You're sad. Let me know.